in national security concerns raised over a firm linked to £1.7 million in Tory donations. We're going to read into this exclusive from iNews, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from iNews with the headline of the national security concerns raised over firm linked to £1.7 million in Tory donations. The exclusive revealed that Pat McFadden, Labour's elected campaign chair, tells the Conservatives should look into donations from Adequate and its directors after concerns were raised by the Ministry of Defence. Guys, while you're here, before I give my initial thoughts, if you can hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. The very fact that the national security are raising concerns over a firm that has links to the Tory donation, where is their concerns about the potential ties that they have to Russian oligarchs that have links to the Russian government? Where is the national security concerns for them? That's my first question here. The second question is that why are we only bringing this up now? I mean, the warning signs should have been there already about how dangerous and how influential outsiders have within politics in itself. But it's a lot worse than it is in the Conservatives than it is anywhere else. Yes, of course, there are concerns with Labour as well and some of the donations and some of corporations and whatnot, and people putting their money into Labour now as a means as opposed to not the Conservatives anymore. And we have seen them and I have discussed them in the past here on this channel. But the amount of money, I mean, even Frank Hester, like the racist, allegedly, and his comments about Diane Abbott, the amount of money that he's poured into that political party is just too much influence. But we're not just talking about the influence that politicians are under at the hands of these investors. We're talking about the very security of the country is potentially be under threat here. So it's just adding on top of already what are major issues here that need to be addressed. Which is why more than ever we need to change the system. We need to do something to stop these large donations being allowed to be put into the pockets of these politicians and essentially basically ended up doing anything and everything that the donors basically tell them to. We need to cut this. We really need to cut this, but whether Labour will do this or not is another thing, but something definitely needs to give for sure. So the Conservative Party is facing calls to renew £1.7 million in donations linked to a major energy project now being held up by significant national security concerns. The concerns have been raised over a project to send electricity across the English Channel, being run by a firm called Adequate Interconnector. So Adequate is run and owned by men who all have historic links to Russia, including one director who once worked for the Russian Defence Ministry. They have been major donors to the Conservative Party, Tory MPs or Tory fundraising clubs since 2012. But they already had connections. There were already allegedly connections from certain Conservative donors already. This was already happening. And only now we're learning that they have national security concerns. In January, the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, the DESNC, paused the £1.2 billion scheme to run the high-voltage current direct current cable from Lodevon near Portsmouth across the channel to Barbados in Normandy. This happened after the Ministry of Defence intervened to address concerns it has over the project. In a letter to David Wagstaff, the head of Energy Infrastructure Planning at DESNZ, on the 7th of March, the MOD said it had significant national security concerns and requested a 6-week extension to the deadline to submit further evidence. Adequate strongly refutes any allegations of national security concerns. Pat McFadden, Labour's election campaign chair, told the Eye if senior Conservative ministers are concerned by the background of Adequate's directors and owners, then the party should also look into the donations. Well, we know they're not going to look into the donations. He said, given the MOD has confirmed it has held up a project due to significant national security concerns regarding the company concerned, then why hasn't the Conservative Party accepted £1.7 million in donations from a company and its co-owner in recent years, including £70,000 for the Chancellor of the Exchequer and tens of thousands of other individuals who have held ministerial posts responsible for defence and security? We cannot be in a position where alarms are raised about a company's access to the UK's infrastructure, but no one says a word about their donations to the governing party. Adequin, which is part owned by Russia's oil and gas tycoon Viktor Feldok, has donated £700,000 to the Conservative Party since the Adequin project began, including £72,500, which was donated to the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt between July 2019 and February 2021. You can see the problem here. Like, how are they not tied to Russia? Literally. Mr. Temvenko and his son Vladimir have donated £749,000 to the Tory party as individuals, and Mr. Tenko Sr. has given a further £450,000 via an oil and gas engineering company he was once director of called Offshore Group Newcastle. Mr. Tenko Sr. has met and been photographed with every Tory Prime Minister since David Cameron. That tells you a lot, doesn't it? On his personal website, he displays pictures of himself with David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, as well as Rishi Sunak at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester last October. The gallery also includes a picture of Mr. Tomenko with many of the MPs he has donated to, as well as several visits he has made to number 10 Downing Street. Other prominent Tory MPs have received donations from the companies. Other directors, including former Planning Minister Brandon Lewis, the former Defence Secretary Liam Fox, former Defence Procurement Minister Hugo Beep, and former Welsh Secretary Simon Hart and Alan Carnes. So this is the proposed £1.2 billion scheme that would run a high voltage direct current cable from Lochville near Portsmouth across the channel to Barbados in Normandy would have been there. So from just outside Portsmouth to Le Havre there, it would have been had they gone ahead with it. He may still go ahead, potentially, depending on the time you listen to this. Mr. Tomenko has consistently maintained he has a strong political critic of Vladimir Putin and has regularly voiced his opposition to Russia's war in Ukraine. While the MOD's letter to the DNSNC did not reveal the full name of the MOD's concerns about the electricity project, the I understands that the historic Russian link of the firm have caught the attention of Defence Secretary Graham Sharps. MOD and other intelligence sources, as well as two former defence secretaries, have also aired concern over the project. One source has said that the people running Adequate all have close, if historical, links to Russia, including with the Moscow Defence Ministry. This has to raise flags whether or not they are anti-Putin or not. Another senior source within the MOD is asked about concerns over the Russian links, adding, "We're looking into all the details you have described." The former Defence Secretary Penny Mordaunt, the current Commons leader, has also raised a potential risk to national security should the project be given the green light. She warned that the project would make Britain more reliant on its electricity on France, which has threatened to interrupt supplies and disputes over post-Brexit fishing deal. Spokesman for Mrs Mordaunt, who is the MP for Portsmouth North, told the Eye, "This scheme is not wanted or needed. The government has already turned it down once. It will be in both Portsmouth and the national interest if it is finally confirmed as a no-go." Another source familiar with Miss Mordaunt's view, adding, "Penny completely shares the concerns of the MOD." A spokesperson for Adequate and its directors described the MOD's concerns as racist and xenophobic. Excuse me? Sorry, your background says a lot to be said here. Excuse me, racist and xenophobic. He said, "We will never respond to racist and xenophobic accusations based on childish conspiracy theories such as these." Alexander Tikmu, Victor Valters, and other directors of Ukraine are British citizens. The situation described regarding these allegations' impact on the DCO. You guys literally have links to the Russian, had links here to the Russian the Russian government. Literally. How can we not be concerned about this? I'm sorry, but those kind of things don't just disappear. The situation described these allegations' impact on the DCO, the Development Consent Order process, as an absolute lie with no relation to reality. We do not believe that our Conservative friends Penny Mordaunt and Suella Braverman would ever condone such stupid, xenophobic and racist comments. Spokeswoman for the Conservative Party said, "Donations to the Conservative Party are properly and transparently declared to the Electoral Commission, openly published by them and fully comply with the law. All the MPs who received donations from the companies and the directors were contacted for comment." Well, I wonder if they've been responded to. So Adequate and Tory donations, guys. So Ada Queen, I know I'm not saying the name properly. Yes, you can spam that comment in the chat if you want to, but sue me. Ada Queen, its director Alexander Tidkimo and his former company offshore group Newcastle OGP have donated more than £1.7 million to the Conservative Party fundraising clubs. They have also handed cash to 12 Tory MPs. The biggest beneficiary has been Jeremy Hunt, who between July 2019 and February 2021 banked £72,500 from either a Queen or Mr. Termenko. The first donation was made 5 days after Mr. Hunt was sacked as Foreign Secretary by then Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The final donation was accepted 8 months before he took up the job at the Treasury. Also high up the donation list is Simon Clarke, the former Cabinet Minister who called for Rishi Sunak to resign as an MP in January. Mr. Clarke has accepted £35,000 into his coffers from either Ada Queen or Mr. Tomishko since 2018. According to the Electoral Commission data on political donations, Brandon Lewis accepted his first £10,000 donations from Mr. Carroll's OGP when he was a local government minister in 2014. Mr. Lewis, who has received a total of £28,000 in donations from Ada Queen, OGP and Mr. Tomenko, then accepted 2 further donations when he was Minister for Housing and Planning for 2016, a fourth while he was Policing and Fire Service Minister in 2017, and a fifth and final donation when he was Immigration Minister in 2017. Others on the list include former Defence Secretary Dr. Liam Fox, former Welsh Secretary Simon Hart and Alan Condis, and former Defence Procurement Minister Gudo B. So these are the Tory MPs who accepted donations from the Queen, OGB and Mr. Tomenko. Jeremy Hunt there, we mentioned. Simon Clarke there. Nigel Aspens, 33,000. Simon Hart, 31. Is that right? That I think that's an error there. I don't think it's supposed to be 31 million. I think that's an error there. I think it's 31,231. I think that's an error, guys, from the article. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's an error. Liam Fox, 30,000, unless you're counting pennies there. Brandon Lewis, 28,000. James Warburton at 25,000. Glue the beeps. Okay, maybe these aren't 16,666 and 66 pence, maybe. Dave Morris, 15,000. Michael Ellis, 10,000. Alan Cotters, 5,000. John Morrissey, 5,000. Mary Robson, 5,000. And Craig Whittaker, 5,000 there. They have influence. They have influence within the Conservative Party with these MPs. I'm sorry, but their ties to yes, they can claim that they've severed their ties, but we don't know that. And there needs to be a lot more background check on this, and especially adding into the fact that this has happened to have worked for the Russian government in the past, and we just to believe that they don't. One director who once worked for the Russian Defense Ministry, it says there. So one director used to work for the Russian Defense Ministry. I mean, come on, how can we be assured that there's not links there? I really don't. I don't really just don't buy this, guys. I think they're right to be concerned about this. They really are. But whether it will still happen or not is another thing. Penny Mordaunt obviously doesn't want it anywhere near where she is, as in her constituency. But she's on track to lose her seat either way. But what do you guys honestly think? Do you think this is a national security concern? Are we exaggerating this story perhaps because one person used to be a defense minister in the Moscow government? Do we know the full story behind this? Are we thinking too much about this, or are they got too much money and giving too much of it to Tory donors, Jeremy Hunt and whatnot? What are your thoughts about all this? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.